mobile types, wooden mobile types. So I decided when I was back home, so a few days ago, to bring you a little something. As you may have seen, we are not so used to use PowerPoint and projecting names and all that stuff. We usually use material things. So, following that idea, I brought this. So I'm wondering if you can, I suppose,
distribute.
Yeah, distribute, and there's, I suppose, one for each. We have more here. I decided to bring a sentence that was from an English speaker.
Cool. These are our bumper stickers.
No, they are not. No, not. For next time.
These are great. Thank you.
Okay.
It's like a souvenir.
Well, something like that. We are going to talk a little bit about this, but I was so anxious, not anxious, but anxious of giving this to you from the first day that I will start now with that. Please don't move. This is my contraphobic option. So contraphobic. That's for you, Tim, that you mentioned that I'm always with the mate. Yes. Well, as I was saying, I decided to call this conversation the Impossible Project, as I asked you in the morning. Perhaps you weren't all here. Well, I know you weren't all here. I re-asked. Cheese! Sorry. Then I look at the photos and I'm I can't put that on Facebook, so
No, don't worry, we'll do that.
Then we make the scenario.
Yes.
Well, thanks for laughing. That's a relief. Please interrupt me anytime you want. This works this way. If you talk, it works. Obviously, if I talk, it works as well. Well, I wanted to start naming some things about the impossible as an impossible for a structure. And what do I mean when I say that I'm going to talk about an impossible for a structure? It means that I'm not going to talk of an impossible that can be possible later, that would be possible if I was less silly, or if I could have more time to prepare this class, or to read more text. It's an impossible for a structure. I'm trying to use the logic of a part of any whole. Una parte de un todo.
Part of any, yes, of any, whole.
I
with
know.
a W, huh?
Okay.
There's also whole with an H is agujero.
Okay. Yes, no, not that idea. A part of any whole. I know it's not an easy logic to get. That's why I call this the impossible project. Perhaps you may know that analysts talking about the impossible is not a new thing. It's not my idea. I'm not new at this. Freud also talked about the impossible, about the three impossible professions. Being an analyst is one. Teaching is another. So I have two difficulties now, and the third one is governing. That's not my issue. So I'm not talking about an impossible that will become possible later on. It won't be possible anyway. Not so long ago, I read a sentence that was in Alice Through the Looking Glass. I'm going to read it now. Alice said, "One can't believe impossible things." "I dare you haven't had much practice," said the Queen. "When I was your age, I believed as many as 6 impossible things before breakfast." Great. Why I bring this quote? Well, because it's lovely, but what why do I bring this quote? Because impossible and possible are not autonomous categories. Autonomous categories are categories that needs to be situated in a field. So what is impossible to one field is not necessarily impossible to another. So we have to situate our categories. We have to make categories. Thanks. We have to make a definition of the field in which we are going to be working on. Please go ahead. A text that helped me a lot to think about this, to think about what I was going to talk to you today, was a text of a French biologist, François Jacob, called in English, The Possible and the Actual. Two words that have been pronounced these days a lot. In this text, François Jacob, and I subscribe, locate both science and myth as systems of explanations. They serve a similar function, he said, providing a representation, I'm quoting, of the world that frames the limits of the possible. So, religion and science will be systems of explanations that could situate what is possible. We could say they build the game of the possible. Within those two systems, we can situate differences. So perhaps we will put religion or religious explanations more in the sense of the mythical explanations that will try to explain, I will say, everything. Perhaps when you want, you can add something to this. They propose an answer to unexpected, protecting people from the anguish and the absurdity of being a talking being, a speaking being, a human being, silencing, making silence about fears and curiosity. They propose an answer. This magic answer will try to, well, I'll try this, my idea, but I suppose they won't say it this way, to cover everything. Science, on the other hand, does not do this. Science is constantly moving, constantly looking for a cure for something new, perhaps producing something new and then trying to cure that. They get paid for that perversion. Yes, they get paid a lot. So science don't believe that they have, don't believe that, doesn't believe that it has one answer that can explain everything. That's why it's still moving, it's still looking. But I emphasize one point that I'm very keen on, and it's this point where the scientist tries, sometimes with more success than others, not to be a part of the world he's studying. So he's external to the world he's studying, trying to make rules that should work everywhere. So, in this point, I'm going to quote Lacan, and something that he says in Le Troisième, that is the third conference that he gives in Rome in the 1st of November of 1974. He says, "What becomes strangely funny is when scientists are not captured by science fiction, but are captured by anguish." Why do we bring this quote now, today? Because in that particular point where scientists are captured by anguish, they are instantly part of the world they are studying and trying to not to be part of that.
They're affected.
Yes. So what we have here is the particular point that we can call castration, as you may imagine. I suppose I expect that now. That breaks into the scientist's intentions.
Como breaks into the
Atraviesa.
pierces.
Pierces.
Pierces the scientist's intention.
Breaks through. So, even if we can situate the difference between mythical or magical or religious, I know there are differences, but in this point I don't care about that so much, except if we bring that. And scientist explanations, even if they are different, we are going to take this idea of trying to explain the world, to situate the coordinates of the possible.
Are we all on the same boat here? Good, okay.
Well, I should have started, so
Yes.
give me a few minutes to cantar los motores.
Get ready.
Get
Warm up, yeah.
So I'm quoting Francois Jacob again. He says, a theory that tries to explain everything ends up explaining nothing. So we can understand that from the beginning, we need to make a decision. And when I say a decision, I mean that very strongly in a value of creation. I don't mean a choice between possibles. I mean a decision. So we have to create the field in what or in where we are going to be working on. Where we are going to situate these two categories, the possible and the impossible. Especially the impossible. That is what I'm going to talk about today. So a decision implies a creation. I wanted also to introduce Vesalius lamina sheet.
Yeah.
Okay, that sounds so much like another thing. It's from a publication of 1543, so long ago. It's called The Humani Corporis Fabrica, on the structure of the human body. Well, anyone knows Latin? It was okay, the translation. As I don't project things, I cannot project this lamina, this sheet, but then I'm going to pass the
Shit
paper
around.
Yeah. Well, this man was a biologist, a very old one, as you can say, because of 1943 happens long ago. He makes these studies from. He was trying to study the human body through the skeleton, in a very particular way, we can say now in a very artistic way. This is, I pick up, it's very informal, but at this point you will know me, I'm quite informal. Please, you can pass this on. I'm keen on that sheet in particular, but are mostly all the same, in the same idea. As you can see, it's not the typical way of understanding a biology book. I mean, this lamina shows a skeleton in a position of a real life, we can say that. He's like with his leg crossed, apoyado, holding his head on his hand, as if he were alive. And what surprised me, thanks, Michael. And what surprised me is, well, this showing a skeleton in 1543, trying to study biology and showing the skeleton in a position of a real life, that is amazing. For me, that is so new. That is not what I expected. But what really surprised me, and perhaps the ones that are now saying that, they can see that in his hand he's holding a calavera? A skull. Thanks. What do this mean? So we are now going to try to answer that. You know that this 1543 is not any year, it's a very particular year. I don't know if you all know that, but as philosophers, I suppose you do. We can say that it's the year that the sun stopped spinning around the earth. Well, that's obviously a way of putting things. It's the year that Copernicus made his theory. So it's a year that fractures history of science and fractures the way we understand the world. Because even if Copernicus made his theory, he keeps the idea of a center. So the sun stops spinning around the earth, but we do have a center. That is not what we are going to understand with Galileo, and obviously not with Newton. I'm talking about this, but I hope you do then, because I think it's your thing, not so much mine. Yesterday, or Sunday before today, I quote Newton in the sense of the writing of a formula as a way of inaugurating a field of thoughts.
An algorithm?
In
Un algoritmo.
Sí, formula, algorithm.
Yes.
That's right, algorithm.
Right.
So when I say that I'm very keen on this lamina, for example, so the lamina of this Vesalius, it's because I think it shows that science can only study man al costo de?
At the price of?
At the price of destroying him. And in this lamina, we have something like a double destruction. You can keep passing it on, and if everyone has to look at this, is garbage now. As introduction. I'm going to go through that. So we have a double destruction, not destruction. The skeleton holding the skull. The skull? Skull. Thanks. And this object, the skeleton, is looking at this silent skull. So it's a very particular shit, this one. I can't speak seriously. No, it's laughing. I would love to think that this lamina introduced forcefully the anguish of the scientist, that thing that escaped its intention. We can say, as psychoanalysts, the castration. So I'm going back to the beginning, to the question about the impossible. And I'm going back to the beginning, to what I think I say the first time I open my mouth around you, when I talk about always saying more than we want to say, more than I want to say. When I speak, I always say more than I want to say, and I will emphasize this idea today, saying this other thing. I always say more than what the I want to say. I don't know if that's an idea. But today I'm not going to talk about this. I'm going to talk about the impossible. And the impossible, we could say, in a class, is education. I will emphasize this idea. I will say that teaching works for me as an obstacle. So if we expect from classes to get the transmission of a knowledge, well, perhaps we can start thinking that teaching is a barrier for that. I know that perhaps this is a strange idea, and I'm happy to talk about this today here in this space and not at university. That is the place for excellence that was built with this idea that teaching can transmit knowledge. You know, at Buenos Aires, I also teach at university, and I have this problem. So this is a very common idea. You know, we have a lot of universities built around this idea. I'm gonna paraphrase an idea of Goya. Do you know Goya? The painter, the Spanish painter.
Goya.
Well, he has a very nice painting that has a Spanish sentence. I want to read it in Spanish. I miss my language. El sueño de la razón produce monstruos.
The dream of reason produces monsters.
And I will paraphrase this idea that appears in Goya's painting, taking Lacan's idea. He says, the dream of knowledge produces monsters. Up to now, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, please.
I was just gonna say, I've always heard, I've read that translated, the sleep of reason produces monsters, but I'm not sure that dream is any worse than like dream or sleep. We could talk about the difference.
The dream for us is quite a productive thing.
Exactly,
and not
that's
sleeping.
right. Exactly, yeah. So that's what I was saying. Maybe dream might be actually a better way to.
This is a literal translation from what is written there.
In the Spanish, okay.
Yeah.
Interesting that we say sleep in
English has interesting
sueño?
choices in translation. Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Well,
It's
yeah.
quite more puzzling.
Did you say sueño?
Sueño
Sueño.
Is sueño is dream? I thought it was rest.
No,
Cuando uno tiene
Rest.
sueño, when you say tengo sueño means I'm tired, I'm sleepy.
Okay.
But sueño implica también dream.
Dream. Okay.
De hecho, the Trandoitum is translated as interpretación de los sueños. Right?
Okay.
You know that sentence, we don't sleep too much, but we dream a lot. So,
Yeah.
maybe that idea.
So I think it's interesting that you said that it's dream. That's good. It's productive in itself. Yeah.
So the dream of reason produces monsters, and perhaps there is a Spanish idea of monsters that I learned from Matias long ago, that it has to do with the etymology of monsters, that it doesn't work in English very well, I think.
You have it in demonstrate something.
So in Spanish, monsters as lo que se muestra, well, I look at you because I know you speak Spanish. So monsters as what is demonstrated, what is shown. But well, if I say what is shown, it breaks the idea, the etymology idea. But as the painting was in Spanish, so we return to the impossible. If I said earlier that the impossible in teaching was knowledge, I'm again not talking about an impossible that will be possible later. I'm not talking about an impossible that will be possible if I was a better teacher. Perhaps other things will be possible, not this. So I want to not only to talk about psychoanalysis, because we are not analysts here, and even if we were all analysts here, we don't need to always keep talking about psychoanalysis. And as I brought this biologist sheet, this, am I pronouncing that correctly?
Funciona. La mierda biológica es lo que te dice, así que dale.
And this painting. Now I'm going to name something. I can't do this seriously. This is an impossible.
This is impossible.
Well, So I'm talking about an impossible of any possible, and I want to introduce other speeches because psychoanalysis always other discourses things. Because psychoanalysis and speeches, next time I will be government.
The address, the address of the union.
Because psychoanalysis has always worked this way. Freud quoted poets, so our friend here that is also a poet, it's great when he talks about
marrying a poet.
And marrying a poet, when we have the theory there. I love when he talked about psychoanalysis and poetry because it's refreshing. Psychoanalysis always had worked with other discourses. With chemistry, Freud usually named things about thermodynamics, and Lacan takes things from painting as well. Well, I took a paraphrase of his autoria.
His
authorship. So today, I'm going to bring another example of what is impossible in a field and won't become possible later, taking a musician, John Cage. Do you know him?
Yes. Beloved.
Yeah, because of your yes, so potent, I understood that you love him.
Ay, querida.
So that's enunciation, as you can see. So the John Cage theme that I want to use as an example, you can imagine what it is? So please, while I drink my mate, can you tell us a little bit about that?
Are we going to speak about 4 minutes and 33 seconds?
Yes, we are.
Okay.
Everyone knows about that?
No.
Well, enlighten us.
Yes, please.
I can give a performance of 4 minutes and 33 seconds.
Oh, that would be great! Sorry, but
Hurry
you
on,
have to do it all the way.
Okay, wait a minute. We need to move things. What?
Okay.
Wait me a minute. We have something that are plugged. We need to make some
Great,
room for
I
you.
appreciate it so much.
Okay. So.
You can get 2 of these if you want now.
Hope you know how to play this thing.
I did it with Julia the other day, so.
Esto. Hola.
You can do
Ça va?
1 minute and 33 if you want.
No, yeah, we'll do that.
Feel free.
Okay.
It's always refreshing.
Sorry.
Y va, Barbie. Esto es todo lo que va a pasar. Sorry, I was laughing so hard because Barbara was with the camera and nothing was happening. She's like, it's just, it was hilarious.
Of course. But a lot was happening.
Yes.
A lot was happening, of course, but you know what I mean.
So this is 433 in a short version of 433 for
Right.
piano, because John Cage wrote the same version for violin, for violoncello, for contrabajo. I don't know how to
It's a
say.
symphony.
Solar bass.
Symphony.
Yeah,
Yes.
the arrangements.
All the arrangements. That's right. And you can see now.
So wait, okay, so Sky wrote this. And
Sorry?
people
This-
came
this-
to the symphony, to the actual symphony,
Yes,
paid
yes,
for it,
please.
Yes,
and they were sitting there,
Describe the situation. Yes.
and they're just like, what the fuck is going on right now?
It's like
Kind of.
Great.
Yes.
So this is a great
And
way.
the the orchestra people are sitting up there like fidgeting, like
No,
why
they
is
were
it
reading.
looking at
They
me?
were
Yeah.
reading
As he says, he grew all the way, all the show.
Everybody was
playing.
playing
And in the actual,
the score. The
Thing-
score was written.
with the piano, he opened, well, here he couldn't have all the elements, but wow, was more than enough for me at least. So this is how the impossible becomes possible with our,
With Seth.
yes. Thanks.
Like, I honestly thought you guys like orchestrated that until I knew what the
No,
thing
well,
No, this
Because
is
he's like,
completely out
I
of
can play it,
culture.
and I was like,
Your
this is like
from the future.
This is out of culture.
Very generous, very generous. Wow,
yeah,
thanks.
Or give a performance of it, not play it. Make it a
Yeah.
performance.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
However you wanna.
Yes.
So when Sean Cage written this play made of silence, we can say made of silence of the musician. This play has 3 movements and lasts 4 minutes and 33 seconds, and it's called 4 minutes and 33 seconds, as Seth was telling. The pianist, for example, opens the piano, he plays the first movement, that is silence, closes the piano, opens the piano, plays the second movement, and so on. And the public start getting a bit anxious, as Barbara was acting for us today. What the heck is going on? And the consequences are the same that we have here, and I'm so happy. I'm really very happy of what happened just now. I couldn't expect this. That Gabby, for example, talks, but yes, Barbara, keep shooting. This is what is happening,
Right.
no? And so what is happening? A lot of things, but one of some things that are happening in something like this is that the musicians shut up because the play is written in silence. We have the partitures. You can see the videos in YouTube with this symphony, very formal, and the musician dressed with the whole suit. This long sacco, you know, very formal, and he makes all the rituals for that type of music, and then silence. And the public start coughing, talking within each other, murmurando.
Mumbling.
You know, in this type of music, the public needs to be quiet. It's like a misrespect, falta de respeto. If they talk, if they cough because they feel guilty, or if they cough because they have to cough, they feel kind of guilty. Or, well, in this moment, what we hear, and you can see that in YouTube, and you can see this live. I'm so sorry, I was going to use the YouTube example, but, well, you can see this live. The public, the audience start talking. What we have here. So this makes no sense. I know because of your face, you are still. Me too. But well, I don't know. I'm going to chocolate.
It's good to meet him in music, no? I'm gonna keep this.
So when we make silence of our own sounds, it starts to appear the sounds of the other, the sounds of the audience. In the case of Sean Cage, the sounds of the analysand, in the case of psychoanalysis. So, sorry, a lot of things happen together. I'm in another language. So these don't make any sense for me neither. And we can say that we are going to pay a lot of attention to this non-making sense. We talk a lot about this with the girls, with Barbara P, with Fabi. I wanted to make reference to another discourse that is not, this also not psychoanalysis, that is from a painter, another painter that is called Francis Bacon. You know about him? Do you like him? But you're an appetite. We have not talked about this before.
I like bacon.
We all like bacon.
We all like bacon.
We all like bacon. Well, you are an easy audience.
Except
Come on.
Who likes bacon?
Well, we can say I'm not an artist. I'm not a crítica de arte. I don't do
Artist critique.
I don't do artist critique, but I love art in the different ways. That's why I'm bringing all this discourse to try to name the thing that don't have name, the impossible. I anticipate you now that I'm not going to succeed in my mission, because otherwise I won't be talking about the impossible. Bacon has this particularity, that is that he paints the human body, the idea of a representation. We can say that he paints the human body as a piece of meat.
Yeah.
We were talking about the pieces of meat that we also are the days before, sometimes the days before. So he doesn't paint an unified idea of the body. He paints a more real idea of the body, taking this real as in the registers of Lacan, not the imaginary idea of the body that gives us the illusion of a unified body, of a totality, but an idea of a body that have the traces of the real. I know that some of these perhaps make no sense, and I cannot assure you that from this conversation you will be able to take something useful. Perhaps you will take just boludez,
A silly thing.
a silly thing, more strongly, like silly things.
Bullshit.
Bullshit, yeah. And now I'm going to talk about psychoanalysis, at least. I think I've been talking about psychoanalysis trying to fool you, but you are not easy to fool. So, well, now I'm going to make this a little bit more explicit. And I don't know if you know, but in the 17th seminary, Lacan talks about the discourse. He named 4 discourse. This is not so easy to get because we are like jumping a lot ahead. We were talking about seminary 6, seminary 7, perhaps 10th, the anguish, and now we are talking about the 17th. I'm going to make just a small mention of a couple of things that I'm keen on. Another time we are going to be able to talk a lot more about this. He named 4 speeches, discourses, the analysant discourse, the hysterical discourse, the master discourse, and university discourse. That this doesn't mean that in university the only discourse that is operating is the university discourse. This doesn't mean that in analysis the only discourse that is operating is the analysant discourse, and so on. This means that the discourse is a way of understanding the social bound. The discourse bond function in the rotation of the places and the elements of things. The discourse are made of 4 places and 4 elements that rotate in the speeches. Thus, rotation is what we are keen on. Discourses. Every time I say speeches, please understand discourses. I will try to do the effort myself, of course, but impossible. Well, I'm trying.
What is that symbol? We need the S2.
S2, little a, S with
Bar
the bar,
S.
bar S, and S1.
That's fine. Just making sure.
Okay. Sorry, I have to speed up a little bit. So they operate in rotation. It's not each discourse for each situation. I know it's a little bit hard to get. I'm going to try to transmit a few more words about that. So, I'm going back a little bit and then just to tomar impulso,
Momentum.
gain some momentum. We don't have, for those who work here in the morning, we don't have now the classical music that makes this suspense. But
Put it back.
I'm going to go a little bit backwards so we can then jump. This is the idea. I hope you don't let me jump alone. We are always jumping into the void, not in the way of this movie. I don't know if you've seen it, Into the Void.
Into the void.
I hope we are not doing that. Well, you can see the movie later. Why I'm going a little bit backwards, because I just want to say a few more words about the nonsense, about what is not making sense and why. Because the sense produce jouissance. The sense produce this satisfaction beyond the limits of pleasure. This is why, sorry, I'm picking this up. I don't know if it's yours, but we had the experience, but missed the meaning. Why I'm bringing this? Of course, you don't know my intentions, but why do you think I'm bringing this? Well, T.S. Eliot is one of my friends, of course. But yes, please, Michael.
Yeah, I don't know, but it seems like it's like maybe the miss the meaning. The meaning is kind of like an unconscious thing, whereas we're doing something and we don't realize what it is we're doing. We can't really analyze what's happening when we're doing it. I don't know. That's just a guess.
I'm taking this. Yes.
I don't know why you brought it, but for me, there's something really sad about this statement.
Oh.
It like produces some kind of sadness in me. No, that's okay. In the way of like, as though the meaning is always the point, as though meaning matters more than experience, which I don't think is true.
You don't think it's true? Sorry. Yes.
It seems like there's something impossible about going back.
About?
Going back. So
gonna be
you had the experience, that's great. You missed the meaning, too bad. You can go back. And that is something that is impossible to get back.
Okay.
What did you say right before that? Right before you asked the question about beyond satisfaction, like beyond like
Jouissance.
right.
Goce.
It's instantiated by sense or by nonsense?
Sorry, I mean, what?
Sense or nonsense? You said. I'm sorry, I'm co-opting your question, but isn't that?
Ah.
Yeah. But of jouissance, you said it's beyond the register of pleasure.
But she said there is a jouissance in sense.
In sense.
In
Okay,
sense.
Perfect.
Yes.
Got it.
Not incense.
Thank you. Yeah, I just want to. I don't know, like that. Maybe that. I don't know, like, because I'm not sure actually. Go ahead. I'm not sure that I know why you brought that.
That's okay. That's okay. Let work it out loud. Please.
Well, I guess I'm wondering. Experience, right? Yeah. I guess I'm wondering if experience. So we had the experience, but we missed the meaning, like that either meaning is beyond, like is sort of a beyond the pleasure, like principle. It has something to do with jouissance, or maybe. I mean. So we have the experience, we have this kind of satisfactory experience, kind of like a basic like human thing at the level of the pleasure principle, but that there's something, the jouissance is this both like more and less than like it's not, it's like it's beyond the pleasure principle in the sense that it's like kind of excess or overflowing of meaning, but that the meaning might not make sense, like is the problem, like in jouissance, right? Like it might be meaning, but it's not, like it might not be coherent. I'm not sure.
I guess for me to add to mine is like that experience is its own meaning. That's kind of what I'm getting at. I'm like reading it ironically.
Although my own reading of it was actually the separation of those two things. That we too often presume that experience is meaning. So, you know, I was thinking of like going to the Grand Canyon, right? Like
Going to the Grand Canyon.
The Grand Canyon.
A place you must visit next time you go.
And that it is this
That is
extraordinary.
correct by excellence.
Yes, it is and we're supposed to be moved and really revel in the profundity of the natural world. But the experience of going to the Grand Canyon is not the meaning of going to the Grand Canyon. It is, we can go to the Grand Canyon, and if we just go, well, there's rocks, then we have missed the meaning of that experience.
See, yeah, I guess I think about this in terms of like ungraspability. So even if you do really good at the Grand Canyon and like do all the things, like really think that you get it, I think like we had the way I heard this was that like we had the experience, we missed the meaning. So let's like do an example we can all relate to, like this little conference or whatever. We had the experience, and there's just this field where there's just like so much, you know, that like you can grasp the meanings, you can like get little threads, but you don't like to totalize it would be like it's just like an insufficient, you know. That's how I read it.
Kind of like what Herman was bringing up about, I think it was you, Herman, I don't remember anymore who said what anymore. This is a good thing, I think. When you were saying that somebody asked Lacan, no, in an interview, who was talking about this? Tad, you were talking about this. That this guy that interviewed Lacan said, why the heck do you write like this? Nobody gets it, whatnot. And he says something happens in the act of reading without really settling in.
Yeah, just to add to that too, like the insufficient thing, like without settling in, it's not because like you're smart or dumb or anything. It's just
it's just what it does.
Yeah.
Any other idea? Yes.
So I was thinking the red, because it reminds me of like a bloody kind of thing, which might be a very banal reading, but it's sort of that the
You are surrounded by journalists, so be careful.
well, you know,
We're not working as such now.
that the bloody, it kind of insists, like you're always, even in the grasping for meaning, you already know that you're not going to find anything. And so that's kind of a sad thing, and it's a resignation to fate. But in our resignation to the fate, there's, you know, maybe, I don't know, there's like a transition there between just shit, like this sucks, and like trying to find something beyond that, and you go back and forth.
And the equivalency, huh? In that red word. You miss the meaning, like you would like to have it again.
Yeah, like I've got it, and then it's gone,
and then
it comes back, and then it's gone again. So you know that it's always going to leave you.
I think there's a sort of condemnation in the red word too, that has to do with the law of language, you know. And I brought up the Grand Canyon because my son and his family and his wife, who's Dutch, who's wants to see the Grand Canyon so badly because it's like you're European and this is why you come to America, like to see the Statue of Liberty, the Empire State Building, that sort of thing. So it becomes this artifact of discourse of travel and so forth. And so, you know, so she's already talking about what it's going to look like and making all these elaborate arrangements about getting there, because it's not easy to get there. You know, you have to sort of really go out of your way. Right. And so I'm thinking like, okay, what does it mean to say I come to America but I miss the Grand Canyon? You know, I can experience America, can you? You can't really experience America unless you experience the Grand Canyon. But in some ways, you're experiencing the Grand Canyon before, because it's like the Eiffel Tower for America, go to Paris, and so forth. It's part of this whole sort of iconography, discourse. Yeah. So it's like, what, you went to America and you missed the Grand Canyon? It's the same kind of thing to me. This is like this.
So I've been here twice, never see the Grand Canyon nor the Statue of Liberty. I'm a very bad tourist. Come on. Yeah. Well, I love most. Well, you said a lot of things. I won't be able this time to dialogue with every one of you because, well, you said a lot of things, which I appreciate very much, your participation. That's what makes this interlocution. So I was saying before, the meaning, out of the meaning, the subject extract jouissance. I was sense. Yes, I'm putting those two things together, forcing a little bit T.S. Eliot. Well, he's not here to hear us, sadly. So that is one of the things why we said in analysis that understand is not one of the things that analysts do, because every one of us understands. Okay, please. From our own ideas, ideals, and morals. So if I understand my analysis, I will end up educating them. That doesn't mean playing the fool. Was there something like that? Okay. So in this mist, in this lost of the meaning, what is left is the experience. The experience as something that we go through, que atravesamos, we go through, like we say, with the body, we don't have anything else. And that leaves a mark that makes no sense, as the different manifestations of art manifestations that I was quoting today, as Bacon. We can then find senses, and we extract from that some jouissance. Oh, see, this is why, and we explain that. We get excited about the explanation, and the other one thinks another thing. So we get satisfaction out of that. So I told you that I was going to go a little bit backwards to see if we can all jump together, not into the Grand Canyon. We are not going to go out of that one. And I was talking about this discourses. Oh, no, I thought, yes.
Yeah, so Carl's thinking in mind, but I don't know. But I was thinking, can you also, because you now start at the level of, let's say, meaning, language, and move towards something that cannot be articulated, so to speak. But can you also turn it around? For example, when you change the word experience for trauma.
Sorry, please ask me again. And I'm not sure if it's a concept or
So
language.
when I heard you speaking about the relation between experience and meaning, you were talking about, speaking in discourse and something that is left over.
Yes.
So you move from language into jouissance, so to speak, or the realm of the real. But does it also work the other way around?
How would that be the other way around?
The other way around would be if you would change, for example, the word experience by trauma.
We had the trauma but missed the meaning. That is what you are saying.
There is an experience, but you can never articulate it. You start the other. You see what I mean? You start the other way around.
I will try to answer your question. I'm not sure if I get what you are meaning, but I will try.
Sure either, but...
Okay, I will try to answer that. And please, if I am answering something else, re-ask. I always say this because we are most likely in English. I could be missing lots of things.
Well, but I think what he's saying is trauma is not an experience. In some ways, trauma is the beginning of experience. That's what makes it trauma.
Is that what you're saying? Because when someone speaks in representation. Yes. Okay. Well, the theory of trauma in psychoanalysis is very complex and very interesting. Perhaps I don't know if we have time for that today. But what I do want to say about your question, perhaps will function as an answer as well, is standing in this word that you pronounce irreversible. Irreversible. I'm saying it in Spanish. Irreversible. Thanks. In psychoanalysis, that doesn't exist. There is nothing that is irreversible, because in every operation we have something that is lost. And that thing that is lost, it can't be reincorporate it again.
So, entonces no entiendo. Está diciendo que no hay nada que es
No
irreversible.
hay nada que es irreversible.
¿Que es o que no?
No hay irreversibilidad.
No hay irreversibilidad. Ok, ahora sí.
Sí,
No, había entendido otra cosa con el
sí,
siglo
hay
XX.
irreversibilidad. Sí,
Ah,
sí, sí.
claro, claro.
Nothing is
All
reversible.
right, right. They're right.
Sorry. The cables are
Perfect.
crossed.
So, in psychoanalysis, there is only irreversibility. Or, what is the same, there is non-reversibility. You can just reverse the order of things because there is an experience.
That leaves a mark, and that mark punctualizes that something has been lost, and that can be regained again. We can gain something else. We can produce another things. It's not once again. It's not a theory of what is lost and melancholia and how sad we are. On the contrary, and I think we are trying to, transmit that in act. So yes, someone raised.
Yeah, just briefly, if anybody can touch on this, because I know there's lots of theologians here. How does this different or relate to mysticism, where you have like a radically subjective experience, and the experience is so subjective that you think that it's impossible to transmit to anyone, and yet everyone knows kind of a little bit what I'm talking about, at least. I'm just wondering how that might relate. Like people that self-identify as being mystics, that kind of thing. I don't know. It's just what I'm thinking about when you're saying this.
Well, yeah, please.
Can I pick it up?
Yeah.
I think that perhaps, at least in my case, I was also thinking about the word mysticism or mystics. Perhaps the rest of you had the same experience on this thing. And Lacan is psychoanalysis with its obscure atmosphere, haze of mysticism that surrounds many analysts. And I think that is something that is changing, because we are here giving account of what we do with words, trying to make it in a clear way, but the fact that it's not all the experience doesn't mean that it's not any of the experience. So I think that it's not, we don't have the right to be mystics, but you don't have the right for meaning as well. There is no right for meaning, as you could say, but I was told that this would make sense. So it would be something in between mystic and meaning. But it's true, we as analysts don't have the right of that mystic.
May I comment on this? Because I was thinking about, when I asked my question, I was thinking of this passage in Lacan where he talks about the vase on a macaroni. You know, what is it? The Grand Canyon brings up the same funny association. Is America a vast country with a crack? Or is it in fact the crack with some country around it? And mysticism seems to be exactly about this kind of issue also. You could say mystic discourse is a lot of babbling in a sense.
Yeah,
and going to the edge of where there is nothing. But you could also say it's the other way around. It's if there is nothing, and then there is a lot of babbling around it. I mean, it depends. You know, it's not the same way whether you look at the vase as emptiness with material around it,
I must say,
or the other way around.
that a crack is not a hole.
No. Like okay.
And it's not the same.
I give that to you.
Yeah. But a crack, it's not really, it's not a hole. It's just topology. Topology. Topology.
Yeah.
The study of vectors, directions, holes, cuts, the torus. A canyon is not a torus.
No.
In that sense, it would be like the image of something missing, but there is nothing actually missing there. And I think Lacan had an effect of mysticism, but the guy talked unstoppably for, I don't know, 25 years. Perhaps that haze of mysticism is not on the account of Lacan. And I wouldn't say that somebody who tried to give account of his own experience while talking for more than 2 decades unstoppably would be a mystic man.
I'm not sure, Joe, how this question came about, but I think what it is interesting is that it brings us back to, Herman keeps reversing. Yeah, is it the crack with a country around it, or is it the country of the crack? While this is very interesting plasticity, and it allows of changing views. I think that what the impossible is about is particularly the opposite, is that not everything is reversible. Yeah, with we were saying this was one of the interventions. There is something irreversible that happens in the position of the subject. In what is the position of the subject? The way we experience the world. Where? In language. So in that sense, I think it's interesting that your question brings us back to this. Now, I'm going to turn it back to you, so we can continue the impossible for a few more minutes, and then we'll see a few more minutes, and then we'll see what's next.
We're just about to jump, so
we're just about to jump. So hang on tight.
So yes, well, I love this theme, the impossible theme, and I always find trouble to talk about this because it's really impossible. But I try, and I hope, with not because of my effort, that I really don't care so much about that, but because of the words that I'm pronouncing, and our colleague was playing, that something of the impossible gets through what I'm saying. And well, in psychoanalysis we work a lot with the impossible to remember, the impossible to say, the impossible of an interpretation. And this idea of an impossible that won't become possible later, that we call castration, is also what we call desire. So yes, when I was talking about the mist of the meaning, in a parallel moment, I was writing these letters that has no meaning, and that's why I'm writing these letters, and that's why I say that Newton's algorithm creates a field. We need an unequivocal language, a symbolic language that doesn't produce metonymia to inaugurate something. Metonymy. For example, math. So math, it's a language that
doesn't slide.
That doesn't have a meaning. We can add meanings. We can add sense, but a math operation, it doesn't make sense. It makes other things. Okay. So I was talking about the four discourse, which I'm not going to talk a lot about that because we could be all year with that. I take just two, and I'm going to name a few things, and I know that there's going to be a lot of things that they won't be understood, but that is also desired. So what I'm going to say is that we are going to take S2 as the place of knowledge. as the element that is not the only way of understanding that. We're going to take that today as such. So in university, if the person who teaches is in the place of knowledge, and I think I mentioned this today or the day before, the place for the audience, for the students, is a place of a rest. I was naming this the other day, if I'm not mistaken, when I was talking about the way that Lacan written and talked, following you. Yes. Because we were talking about how hard he writes, how hard he speaks, and we were wondering why. So perhaps it has something to do with this, and with this that I was saying the other day, no, just a while ago. Perhaps from this conversation you are not taking something useful, you are taking some kind of bullshit, and that will be a succeed for me. Success. If I'm talking from my castration, from my division, from my desire, the ones that punctualize the knowledge as saber, no conocimiento, not information, punctualize, punctuate, sorry, are you. So the knowledge as savoir is produced in you. You are not the rest of my knowledge. So you are the one that punctualize what I say, or my silence as well. Well, I think that is all.
Comments, questions, concerns?
I would like to add something.
Please.
First, thanks. I think it's really important to talk about the impossible, and it's really impossible to talk about the impossible. And I noticed that there is something missing in the noting of the discourses.
Well, yeah. Please?
Which is actually how Lacan writes the fact that some things cannot go together.
Rejoined.
Cannot rejoin.
Cannot be reversible.
Cannot be reversible, exactly. So the impossible was missing in the noting. And I think that it's great because perhaps if you just written it, we wouldn't notice it. But the impossibility of the impossible, I think, makes it visible in a way.
Mm-hmm.
And no, well, just that.
Great, thanks.
Yeah.
Anyone?
I hear you talk, I hear all of you, the analysts especially, talk about abstention from
Abstention
from knowledge, abstaining from
abstinence.
abstinence, not abstention, sorry, yeah, sorry. Abstinence from knowledge, right? So you don't want to understand, you don't want to know, but you do want, you abstain from knowledge so that the analyst will like know or understand? Is the patient, is the client analyst aiming at understanding, or are you trying to aim them at understanding, and you're trying?
Sorry. What? Ask again.
Yeah. Do you want the analyst to understand? You don't want to understand, but you want them to understand.
Oh, okay.
I'll say something. Perhaps you can. Perhaps the thing that I forgot to say. It goes through that direction. Well, understanding is not a name for me as teacher nor as analyst. And well, we can understand something and then be confused again and then understand something again. But what I wanted to say is that knowledge is transmit in act as desire. So you are here, we are here as well. Well, you and I, perhaps I'm talking about we, because of, for example, her enthusiasm, her desire no, and because of my own desire and your own desire and your own desire, but because I'm exciting talking about this, you are here. So it's something that happens in act. After that, we can understand and put words on that. But yes.
Or
Okay, can
we're
I
understand.
interrupt you?
See, please.
Okay. I think Tim, the question Tim is bringing is this is definitely key. But so I guess Eliot says it. What happens? The question of what does the analyst do with what we know? Because it's not that when you hear somebody, for example, if you hear somebody that is like, well, I'm sorry, but I have to get up and sit and get up and sit and get up and sit 8 times before I can lay on the couch. It's not that right here you're not already kind of feeling this is probably going to be a bit of an obsessional case and we're going to go and okay. So these things, same when you're like, oh my God, I have such a headache, I have allergies, so it's not that we don't know, so we cannot be Locke. We are not tabula rasa. Now the problem is ethical, and this is what concerns us all. Ethical in where? Ethical in the sense that we wonder about what to do with what we know. This is a question we sustain all the time. In order to have the experience, one needs to abstain from understanding. Also because, let's say that I receive somebody who starts telling me that they have been abused early childhood, they start telling me a terrible story, they cry, they get angry, and on top of giving her some tissues, I say, oh my God, that must have been so terrible for you. I know how you must have felt, poor thing. Well, we're gonna make it better. In this thing of understanding, there's also the illusion of reciprocity of feeling. Empathy. Empathy, the biggest curse of any analyst. So abstain from empathy all you can.
Yes.
And in that midst, what happens in abstinence is that, again, in abstaining to understand, you not only propel the analysand in saying, in a crazy saying, in a completely incoherent saying, which is free association in the end. So much so, because we know that that is what works. What works for what? What works for an experience? An experience of what? An experience of desire. That is what? Irreversible.
Of the unconscious as well.
Yes,
and
always, huh?
And there's no mystique in there.
Huh?
There's
no
mystique.
mystique whatsoever. And I'm going to say something else.
On the surface, yeah.
Yes, go ahead, Barry.
Well, and I think what's important is that with withholding the understanding also, you are withholding the response to a demand.
Of course.
Which propels even more the desire? Or
yes.
Yeah.
Well, at least we could say at least the demand remains unsatisfied.
Right, the demand to like cure me. Like we talked about this the night that I came and
yes,
and presented.
yes.
The demand is in that red word there too.
Why?
A ver.
Yeah.
Why do you read it? I mean, in the red word, but where?
Well, that's what I'm saying. You know, it's if I feel that I've missed the meaning, then I feel like somebody else has the meaning that I don't have. You know, that's very often how a professor is taken by students. I mean, not often, most of the time. It's like, you've got the meaning, we're going to try to wrest it from you. Or if we didn't get it from you, you know, we feel bad or we feel guilty, you know, or we want it, you know, and that kind of thing. So there's this, I mean, good teaching is also abstaining.
Claro, claro.
Totally.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah, I mean,
Not very present, perhaps not
Yeah.
most commonly present in academia.
Yeah.
Yeah, where in general it is about a different realm of transmission, huh?
It's didactic. It's
Yes,
here,
yes,
let me
it's like
transmit this to you directly.
yes,
and you just
yes. Let
remember
me
it.
force this onto
It's
you.
like all my seminars, right? I just kind of give you the message in the summary. And the
Yeah, you're the Gnostics of it.
Cliff notes.
That's right.
Your slideshows are great.
Como el resumen de Luis. So another thing that I meant to say, and I think we can just pretty much, if you're on for it, we can just go through and move on to.
We don't switch places.
See, you can sit wherever you want. We can.
Moebius band, I go there.
Moebius
you
band,
go
yes.
here.
We can bring my Moebius actually. We have a Moebius. That what I meant to say is that in this something that is irreversible in my reading of things, and here again, I may be as lonely as I am as usual, like Lacan would say, when it comes to the analytic act, to the relationship with the act, which is an act that pertains to desire. Something of the realm of the irreversible has already happened in the midst of this conference. And what do I mean with this? This was, for me, completely unimaginable 2 years ago. So again, thanks to Rose, we don't know who she is. We are here all together. We spent 2 more days together, and theology, philosophy, and psychoanalysis are once again meeting in a way that doesn't mean renouncing what is true for the analyst, but what is innegotiable for an analyst, which is an ethical action regarding desire. And you guys are here helping us think, helping us put this in a way that is, I believe, not stoppable anymore. I say this with conviction. I say this moved by what I'm saying. For me to have these guys here is a treasure. To share this with you, to learn with you, what is it that brings you here? Why is it that Lacan, is it just because he's so freaking ununderstandable in the end? Is it just because he's just a Rubik's Cube times 10 that we are all here trying to make ends meet? I don't think so. I think it is because all of us, in one way or other, in a way that concerns each and every one of us in our most intimate singularity, miss something, experience something. I think we can continue this. I think you and I, Carl, have a lot to do, and I hope to continue to have these kind of conversations midst crusades with you, particularly, sir, in the end of the room there. We'll continue the crusades, and I hope to be able to come see you next time I'm in Europe. I'd like to see what you do with the kids over there. I think that this sort of strange, weird friendship between academia and analysis is possible. It's possible as long as we are there sustaining the tension that Matthias was bringing up yesterday in his presentation. The tension of 2 voices in one poem, for example. The tension of a beautiful flower that breaks a stone. Sustaining the tension of each and everyone's discourse and putting the tension to work, to cause. This is what we do best. Yes, Tim.
I just want to say, I mentioned this to Matthias after his presentation, but like some of these things, just like you were saying, this friendship, strange friendship between the academy and analysis.
Yes.
For me, it's not like, it's one of those things where like when you're faced with a thing like you have to choose Deleuze or Lacan, and you have to either try and reconcile them or not. like the poem that he read to us is so interesting because it's not about reconciling one person to another or people to people or like these kind of proper names to one another.
Yes.
It's about reconciling people to stones.
Correct.
So I mean, so we'd have to think and talk about what that might mean, what it might mean, what is
It
the
means
stone
an
for the
invention.
people, right? It has to do with creation and invention.
This
rather
is a
than-
land of pioneers, Tim.
Right, yeah, exactly. We're all,
We
yeah,
are
back to
we are
all of us
here.
in
This is
classified
what the
years.
gold rush happened. Okay, this is where people came and planted flags.
Yeah.
We are not here just because of anything.
Right.
What was that?
And massacred Native Americans.
Sure, of course. Yes, all of that.
Right.
Did
Did you know that the DU mascot is the Pioneers?
No, I did not.
Yeah, we're the Pioneers.
Well.
all everyone in the class.
Well, there we go.
We're all
I'm sorry, I
pioneers.
didn't know that. I didn't know the mascot is the pioneers.
Multiple
It's
registers.
very
And also one of
But this friendship is possible as long as we're trying to reconcile people in stones, rather than trying to like maybe make an impossible reconciliation between people like say Lacan Pellucid that came up
Of
last night.
course.
Like that it's not necessarily that might be an impossible reconciliation, but a productive reconciliation that we can affect between what's mineral in us, what's vegetative in us.
We
what's
can work
unconscious
with
in us.
the
Yeah.
impossibles.
Yes. The impossible is as long as you don't try to make it reversible, to
Yeah.
make it possible,
Mm.
it's something that you can work with.
That produces effects.
Aha.
Yes.
As long as you don't velarlo,
Deal it.
deal it.
Screen it. Yeah.
Oh.
Another thing that is Mati, were you gonna say something?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree in the sense that, and I remember you told me this after my mini conference yesterday. But it's true. One feels tempted to explain Lacan with Deleuze and Deleuze with Lacan and to do that sort of reconciliations. And that would be to go for the meaning.
Yeah.
At first, perhaps there is a meaning or a thread of meaning, as I think you were saying. I don't remember. It's Karen, yeah. As Karen was saying, like threads of meaning, perhaps in the end as an effect, not a go and rush into the meaning.
Mhm.
And in the like, Lacan will be the S2 of Deleuze, that will be an S1, and then we you have the algorithm, Saussure algorithm of Lacan. We have the S1, that will be another discourse, but another discourse that Lacan wrote is an S1, the 2 bars, and S2. But there's more to language than meaning.
Uh-huh.
I think that is what one thing we are trying to say. That is what it's not what I understand about Dom's mini conference. Because I think this is not understanding. She says something, I say something. It's an effect. She says, we had the experience but missed the meaning. I say, there's more to language than meaning. I don't know if I understand her, but what she says has an effect.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll be fortunate to leave here having missed something.
Aha.
If we walk out the door having missed something today, that's something's happened, something's been
It's kind of like what Kieran was saying earlier. Then this possible, this conference, and you're like, we're good, having hands like this.
Yeah.
And then something will happen, hopefully. The other thing I wanted to say that I was, Herman, you have made us work with your presentation last night like no other time the three of us have gotten together yet. We were propelling and thinking and going about it as to how to not to reconcile, but to try to be able to sustain the tension. So thank you for that. I'm very grateful about that. I am looking forward to the German paper that you're going to send me to read slowly with this dictionary, and I'm looking forward to the translation. Very, yes, very much so. But the one thing I wanted to add, and it's something that I found, I wish that Jerry was here, because he probably would agree, when he said yesterday, instead of a return to Freud, should have been a return to Saussure, that is to say the same. Lacan returning to Freud and Lacan returning to Saussure, to me, is synonymous. Because Lacan reads in Freud the possible use of linguistics. Freud in Television, he says Freud advances linguistics. So you can read that from the project on. It's something constant in Freud's work. The other thing that I meant to say is that Saussure, well, actually, sorry, Benast, another linguist, a French guy, where apparently the best things happen. This guy studied at La Sorbonne with Antoine de Millet, a guy who was formed with Saussure. And Saussure had left a mark in his students, a very particular mark, which is an ethical mark, again, of how is it that the linguist compares one language with each other, to open their eyes at the prejudices that they practice with, open the eyes and perhaps a possibility of abstinence in the work of the linguist itself. And another marvelous thing that I treasure dearly of Benast is that he made some distances from his master. He took some steps away from Saussure, and part of these differences arise in his method of linguistic analysis. And one of the most marvelous things he says is that the method cannot be foreign to what it is studying. There lies the efficacy of the method. Psychoanalysis is a method that, in my own words, rehabs desire. It's to put it in a nutshell. So when we speak of psychoanalysis, it's this strange friendship we are forging now is something that will allow us to sustain the tension between using psychoanalysis to think about thought, probably in a more philosophical way, and to never forget that when you do this, you must take into account the impossibility. Take into account that castration leaves a mark that you then cannot undo. That it is not reversible. That mark is a mark of desire. That is the trace that we have all been hopefully pierced through enough through these 2+ somewhat days that we have been sharing together. Again, I am very grateful that you all are here. I am thrilled that this happened. I am exhausted that this happened. I love it all. And thank you guys. Thank you guys, you two, for coming. It's been awesome to have you around. Awesome to have you around. And I enjoyed your presentations, Herman, Tad. It was very interesting to have all that big salad come up so tastefully through these days. I don't know what yes, please.
Just a short comment on what you are now, because you're commenting also
Sure.
on my lecture yesterday.
Yes.
I think that yesterday evening I did nothing more than the sacrifice in poem, cracking up a little bit of stone
Exactly.
in order
Yes.
to make it productive.
Yes.
I mean, that was basically what I was doing. I did not create a Grand Canyon.
No,
But the
you
nice
created
thing-
a Grand
the nice-
Cannon.
The nice thing about the
That was the
metaphor-
meeting I was in this morning where I couldn't be here on time.
The nice thing about the metaphor of the sacrifice is that the roots of the sacrifice, however thin and fragile they are,
Yeah.
you still keep together.
Yes.
Parts of the story.
They keep on growing, yes.
That's an interesting point.
And that's what friends do. We bother each other.
Uh-huh.
That's what I do.
Yeah.
We bother each other.
The frenemies.
The frenemies. we had the frenemies. There are some neologisms that have come from this conference, huh? We have a few. Some in Spanish, some in English. Psychoticos is another, which has it's stuck.
If I could say something in
Please.
terms of images, because for all my kind of conceptual loquacity, I tend to think in images. And whatever images come to mind, that's sort of what goes forth in whatever discourse is, generated by
You're
that.
telling us bluntly that you're delusional.
I am, yeah.
Awesome. Then you are in the right place.
Yeah.
Let's go on.
Yeah, so there's been a lot of mention of Deleuze here, but because these students are people, that's the D's. D stands for Deleuze. The rhizome, rhizomatic experience and so forth. A lot of people think of the rhizome as something, well, they don't know really what it means. It's a plant, and I tell them what the iris of the rhizome. It's not just a tuber, because in some way it's something that sustains everything, but the rhizome is also the growth and the tuber. It's always this parallelism that's going, and it has no structure. It's not arboreal as that kind of real. Arboreal, as Deleuze talks about. It is. It moves underground, but also it's constantly springing up above ground and so forth. Or, it goes where it grows and it grows where it goes and so forth. And and Deleuze, I think, well, he got the image from water. I think probably got it from Lacan, even though Lacan doesn't use that word. And so forth. And I'm thinking that there's this kind of rhizomatic process of meaning happening here. I don't know if I'll miss any meaning when I go away. I mean, I miss so much, and but that's, in a sense, it's in those gaps. It's in that forgottenness, that forgotten space, or the time when my mind was drifting, or when a former student of mine from South America starts texting me because she's got my number wrong and she's trying to reach a friend in Colorado, saying doesn't realize she's texting me and talking to her friend about her personal life. I said, wait a minute, this is all going on in the last few hours.
Right.
Yeah. So,
Did you not tell her?
It's going on. Just this voyeuristic.
She's a PhD in philosophy. So it's it's like thinking, all right, so that's part of it. I mean, we talked about trying to bring art into this.
Yes.
More logistically, but we should.
We will.
Next time.
I'm actually can I toss you something right now?
Yeah.
Next year, Anguish. This was an idea of Matthias. What do you all feel like?
Or we have to suffer. Is that what
you're saying? Yeah. We're all masochists here. We'll take that.
No, but I mean, we could perhaps dedicate a few days, something like this, to speak about anguish. I think it's a great tension point, analytically, philosophically, that could entertain us for a minute.
Taking up the fact that you're reading the 10th, some of you, that it has been published.
Yeah, it actually
makes it
beautiful
more
translation.
accessible.
Yes.
Perhaps not affordable, but accessible.
Anguish is never affordable.
Yeah. and it's I think it's a big topic that came up all
along, yes.
These days.
Yeah. Domi, you were going to say something?
No.
Ah, okay. Sorry.
Yeah.
Then.
Well, she said a lot.
She said a lot. What I also wanted to mention is that this happened not only because they're here and all of that jazz. This happened because these three ladies here and some people that are not here today that are still in Washington, D.C., dared to let us know that this jump into the void is not void. These are the first students of the Clinical College of Colorado, and they have taught us quite a bit. So thank you as well. Thank you very much for your questions, for your work, for your yes. Thank you very much, very, very much. It's good to know. It's good to know.
Thank you, you guys.
No.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yes.
And the last word on these girls. They will take on the seats. And disappear.
Oh, you can go ahead.
Sí, vayan.